Do you want to grow more fruit and utilise vertical space? Then these 17 fruits that grow on vines are going to help you not only create a whole lot more food for the garden, but also create some shade to help protect those other more sensitive plants during the hot summer months. They're also a great way to grow more in a space that you wouldn't normally be able to utilise to grow. By planting in one spot and training along a fence line or over an arbour, you can get metres and metres more growing space without taking up any more space in the ground. Because you guys know I like to grow a whole lot of different varieties of fruit in my gardens. So hopefully this helps you too. These fruits that grow on vines are a mix of perennial, annual, as well as some that do well in cold climates and warm climates. So there's something here for everyone, and I'm growing most of these in my garden, so we're going to take a look at those examples as well. Having a list of fruits that you can grow on vines is great for filling in those gaps and taking up more space in a food for our style garden when you've already got your canopy layer, your middle layer, your ground cover. Adding vines and vertical growing fruits is just going to add a whole another layer of shade, protection and fruit for your garden. And make sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to share more tips on how you can get the most out of your vertical space. Cucamelons are a really fun one to grow in an annual garden. So these are things that you can plant and harvest in the same season. And cucamelons are like little baby watermelon looking fruits on a vine, and they're tiny, but they have more of a cucumber flavour. So they're really good in salads. They're also great pickled, and they are super prolific and grow a whole lot of fruits on a small vine. You can grow these in your raised garden beds or in a pot. They're a really fun one to try out. So behind me here I have a few different things growing, and the main one is my gold passion fruit. So I have a few different types of passion fruits growing, and that means that I can get an extended harvest because my purple passion fruits are ripe over the summer months, but the gold ones take a bit longer. So they end up holding the fruit green over winter and they start ripening in spring, which is great because a lot of other things aren't fruiting in spring. Spring can actually be quite a lean time for fruit in the garden because you've got all your things like your stone fruit starting to flower, your citrus is finished up, and it's sort of an in-between spot. So having this gold passion fruit fill that gap is really great for me when I'm trying to get fruit 365 days a year. So it is looking a little bit straggly at the moment, but that's just because we're in the middle of winter at the moment and they love the warmer climate and the warmer times of year. But there are a few that are going to be ripe soon. And down here I actually have another different type of passion fruit. It is in the same family, but it is quite different. That is a Granadilla or Granadilla, and I have the sweet Granadilla, but there's also a giant Granadilla which is huge, and it's very different from a passion fruit and the sweet one. The sweet one has a hard casing on the outside, so I'm really interested to see how that goes and see if it's more hardy and tolerant against fruit fly. I have it here in a really sheltered spot, and I'll eventually train it up and join it in with this gold passion fruit. So you can see the leaves on this passion fruit are quite different to a regular passion fruit. It's more like a passion fruit's cousin. So I'm really excited to get this to take off. It's got some new little side shoots, got some new growth coming out the top. One of the good things about passion fruit is that they are evergreen, so they have leaves all year round, which make really good screen cover or green backdrop for your garden. But that is a good thing to consider when you're choosing where to plant the passion fruit, because it is going to block light during the winter, as opposed to something like grapes that lose their leaves and let light in the winter months, and we have them in the front yard. So speaking of grapes, I have this beautiful arbor here out the front that we constructed to grow grapes on to provide shade for my veggie patch during summer and then let light in when they lose their leaves in winter. I've got 4 grape varieties growing very slowly, so hopefully, fingers crossed, this summer they'll be up and over this arbor so that I can have some summer shade. So this one is getting there. It's about 3/4 of the way up, and that is the flame seedless. And then over here I've got the sultana, and at this end we've got the perlette and black maru seedless. So this one's a little bit wild. That needs some training up. So just imagine this with grapes hanging down. So another one that probably won't surprise you that I'm growing is kiwi fruit. So kiwi fruit are another deciduous vine, and they need a really hardy trellis. So they have really strong vines and they can be quite heavy, so I will need to put some extra structures in place for those, but at the moment I have them growing in my driveway patch. So this patch doesn't get much sun during the winter months, which doesn't matter because the kiwi fruit mainly lose their leaves and go to sleep during winter. With kiwi fruit you need to have male and female plants, and I have 1 male, 2 female, and I also have a seed grown gold kiwi fruit that I'm hoping I will be able to get established because you can't buy those as plants. Kiwi fruit are a great one if you do have a bit of a colder climate. I am still going to be trying them here in Perth, and I do know that kiwi fruit do grow in Perth, but I've just chosen a bit of a cooler spot for them, and I'll be providing them with some shade during the summer months. Look at my banana umbrella. Another one is tomatoes. So some varieties of tomatoes grow better on a trellis, more like a vine, and you can create archways to grow them over or trellis them up the back of your veggie gardens as well, especially things like cherry tomatoes, great ones to pick and just use in your salads. And let me know in the comments if you are growing any of these, which ones you're growing, or if there are other fruits that you're growing on vines that I haven't listed. Share those with us in the comments. Another fun one that looks a little bit crazy is the kiwiano, or the horned melon. So this grows similar to a cucumber, but it's yellow with the spikes on the outside, and a great one to try out if you're wanting to grow something new. And of course cucumbers, which are my favourite thing to grow over the summer months. They're super refreshing. I love them in salads. You can juice them and make a really hydrating juice that's more nutritious than just water. Cucumbers also benefit from afternoon shade, so having them in an area that you can keep shaded from the hot sun or in containers is a good option. Lots of water and afternoon shade is the key to successful cucumbers. You can also just add cucumbers into your garden beds and put a trellis up one side, so you can grow lettuces and chilies and capsicums in the same bed as having cucumbers up the back or up one of the sides over a trellis. It's a great space-saving way to grow more food in a small garden. And if you do live in a hot climate like me, then this, excuse you, dragon fruit. That is a type of cactus, and so it grows really well in hot, dry conditions like here in Perth, and produces a whole lot of fruit. So you can train these up vertically and also give them a structure to sort of fall down over. These ones do need a proper structure, but at the moment I have them here in my container garden beds. Pumpkins can also be grown up vertically as well. You'll often see them trying to grow over fences, trees, everything. They have a real vine-like structure that you can trail along the ground or train it to go up. Choosing varieties that have smaller fruits on them is going to be a good one if you are wanting to train it up, just so that it can hold its weight better. There's a whole bunch of varieties of pumpkin and squash that are smaller that will suit growing vertically a lot better than some of the bigger varieties. Watermelons are a really fun one to grow vertically, and choose smaller varieties, things like your sugar baby melon, that have smaller fruit so that it can hold the weight of them a lot easier. Otherwise you can also support them with some masks. A great use for those old masks is supporting your little melons. And things like rock melon are another good option for melons because they are a little bit of a smaller variety and super delicious. And growing things like pumpkin and watermelon vertically is a great way to reduce pest damage and also diseases, because it gets them up off the ground, off the soil, away from critters and excess moisture, and you can sort of give them more ventilation and airflow. Kiwi berries are kind of similar to kiwi fruit, but they grow quite differently. They've got much softer vines. They don't need such a heavy structure. You can grow them in container gardens, and they produce grape-sized little kiwi fruits, and you can eat the whole thing like a little berry with a kiwi fruit flavour. These are kind of a trickier one to grow in a warmer climate, so definitely picking a shadier spot or somewhere cooler in your garden is going to help them thrive. I'm on the lookout for another one because I did cook mine last summer, so I will be trying to track one of those down so I can try and grow it again, because it is a really, really fun one to grow and delicious. Choco, or also called chayote, that is a really prolific one that grows during our hot summers, so it's a hardy, drought tolerant plant to grow, and you can use it like a vegetable or a fruit. So you can use it chopped up in stews and curries. You can also make preserves out of it and use it as a filler, kind of like apple. So instead of having apple and blackberry pie, you can use the choco as the replacement for the apple, and then add other flavours in with berries. Definitely a great one if you're wanting to not only grow food but also provide some shade for your garden, because it is a really hardy one that is a perennial. It'll grow back every year. It sometimes will die down if you do get cold winters, but then it will pop up and regrow again for the next year. So if you have some archways or some tunnels that you want to have summer shade on, then that can be a really good hardy drought tolerant one. Another one that I'm on the lookout for, so if you see any ever and you're in Perth, let me know, is the muscadine grape. So that's one that's growing in really hot climates. So you see that a lot in like the US. So I would love to give it a try. I know it's over on the East Coast, so it is in Australia, but I just don't think we have it here in Perth, and it has a bit of a harder outer skin on it. So that's definitely one that I want to try. Okay, so these are technically not a vine, but blackberries. I've got these growing up this arbor here so that I can keep them contained. This is the thornless blackberry though, so it's not as invasive. And you can get a whole lot of delicious fruit in a small space. So this is a container garden, but you can train blackberries and raspberries vertically to get some delicious fruit. Bottle gourd is one of my favourite annual climbing vines to grow because it's really easy to grow. It thrives in the heat, which I have a lot of, and it's super productive. It also grows well in container gardens, which is a bonus. Also, look how much my front yard has changed. These are my old shade structures with the bottle gourd growing over them. The bottle gourd comes in different varieties, and it's also really versatile in the kitchen. I use it to make a whole bunch of different things, including my own sushi paper using greens from the garden. So if you want that recipe, I'll link it in the description. So tip number one is obviously give it something to climb on. I use this wide chicken mesh quite a lot for my vertical gardens because it gives it something for them to cling onto, but if you do want to prune it back and remove it, it's a much easier job than the tiny little holes. So I use this on my fence lines quite a lot that already have some sort of support. And I just use string lines in my raised garden beds to give the plants something to cling onto while they reach up to the top of the arbor. My mum also loves to use string lines for her beans and her veggie patch. Number two is mulch around the plant. This helps retain the moisture. It also stops the soil and bacteria splashing up onto the plant and reduces the critters, leaving a nice clear bare area around the base. And number three, I like to prune off as many of the bottom leaves as possible, as well as thinning out the leaves, the old leaves, the half-dead leaves on the plant. This helps improve airflow and reduce things like powdery mildew. And if you do have shady areas of your garden and you don't know what to grow, then check out this video on what to grow in the shade.